we have a great episode in store for you today. I'm with my man Knight. We've been taking a little while off, but it's been because it's been a little bit stagnant in the Prem. But fortunately, the international competitions have been popping off. We're going to be talking Champions League. We're going to be talking Europa League today. I'm here with my co-host Knight. How are you doing?
Man, I'm good. Just happy to be here as always with you. Happy to have you back. And I am ready to talk Champions League football, man.
Well, we're going to be talking about both, right? Because there's some importance going on in the Premier competition, the Europa League, Europe's finest. But I know we have to mention Champions League. We have to mention, Chelsea, of course, because that is what half of this show is going for. But how you been doing in your personal life, man?
Things are good. We are trying to figure out where we're going to go soon because our time in the UK will be up at the end of the year. Everybody's healthy, thank God, with the COVID and everything. Yeah, man, things are looking up. Things are starting to warm up. That's very important over here. And hopefully, COVID restrictions die down soon. How about you? How's life in the States treating you?
It's great. Midwest is seeing a heat wave after a pretty cold spell. I've been playing a lot outdoor and indoor, getting a lot of touches on the ball. And really enjoying what's been going on in the world of international football because domestic hasn't been too good for Arsenal.
That's true.
But speaking of international football, we're going to start it off. We're going to dive right into it. We're going to talk about Champions League first. Okay. And for those of our viewers, just to recap, the round of 16 just ended. And on Friday last week, a couple of days ago, we just drew the round of 8. So we have all of our fixtures lined up for the Champions League. We're going to be dissecting some of those. But Knight, go ahead and talk me through what you thought of the round of 16. What were some surprises and some interesting things that you saw?
Big surprise for me, and I guess I'll start off by giving myself a plug. So, because, I can never go too long without stroking my own ego. So, Flash, I just want you to realize something, okay? Like I said, I'm going to stroke my own ego real quick. I predicted most of this. Only 2 of these matchups I got wrong. So when we initially did this, I think like 3 episodes ago, I did say I had Liverpool. However, I had Juventus over Porto, and I did have Atalanta over Real Madrid. Real Madrid's just old, decrepit. But I did have PSG. I had Chelsea. I had Man City. I had Bayern and Dortmund. So I just want to say that. But the big surprise to me, especially since you hate him so much, you think he's the biggest crybaby in all the world of football, is Liverpool. Leipzig is a team that has been really coming up in the Bundesliga over the last 5 years. I know there's a lot of controversy to how they did it, but who cares? And I really thought that they would give Liverpool a bigger run for their money, but they didn't. So that was my biggest surprise. What about you?
Really quiet for the way they bowed out of the league. I have a couple.
Okay.
Porto, I think 4-4 was unanimously the biggest surprise coming out of that group stage. I think Chelsea was maybe a little bit behind that. Chelsea beating Atletico 3-0 on aggregate. But
wow.
I mean, let's talk about Porto. They tied Juventus 4-4. They won on aggregate on the away goal, so they still went through despite tying over 2 legs. But this just speaks to Juve overall and how poor they've been under Pirlo. And maybe it's not necessarily Pirlo, but it's a lot of decay kind of coming up over years of maybe complacency. Juve right now are out of the Champions League, and in the domestic Serie A, they're 10 points off first, and they're now struggling financially because of COVID. Yes. And if they lose this year, if they don't come in first in the Serie A, it's going to break a 9-year winning streak for first place Serie A.
Thank God.
In Pirlo's first year. I know, that's what I'm saying. I think that's a good thing for the sport.
It's good.
I think that's a good thing for the sport. Let me ask, so Porto 4-4, this is a big surprise. What do you think of PSG 5-2 over Barcelona? A game that I predicted to be 4-1 on aggregate.
I think that was a good prediction. Look, honestly, I think we all know Barca has been kind of having a resurgence in the second half after they've kind of dealt with the whole, club presidency and maybe some of the shystiness that was happening when Bartomeu was there. But they were kind of still in that mess when this leg started, the first leg especially. Their back line is still led by someone who should probably just be focusing on his wife, Shakira. And I'll be honest, man. Mbappe was just flaming them, and I didn't think anything would change. I was a little surprised that PSG scored so much in that first goal game because I really do think Mbappe feeds so much off of Neymar being another creative mind on that team. But man, Barca can't deal with fast, pacey guys like that. So I wasn't surprised.
Who is this? So let me ask you this, right? Just to set the stage, PSG isn't doing great domestically. Internationally, they're obviously coming off of this win, looking very good internationally. But they're in second place in League One with 9 games to go. This is extremely taboo for PSG, who've won the league for countless years now with an influx of foreign cash. So let me ask you this. Is this win a credit to PSG, or is it basically Barcelona kind of pulling themselves apart?
I love how you threw that quick in there, influx of foreign cash. Definitely much more to kind of like the timeline for PSG this year. Like, yes, they are second in League One, which, as you call, a farmers league, and sometimes I agree. There's a lot of talent in that league. I'm very surprised that they're not first 10 points off, with maybe a few games in hand, but they have dealt with some injuries. They dealt with some weirdness this year, not just Neymar. And honestly, when you look at their bench, I don't think they're as deep as some people like to see them. I think they were a little bit deeper in years prior to this year. And maybe COVID had to deal with that as far as like salary cap management and dudes going elsewhere and saying I can get a bigger contract. But either way, I just don't think they're as deep this year as they used to be. I look at their bench and I laugh. And I think they probably just saved up what they had best for Champions League, man, because that's the one thing that they still have yet to do. They're probably the biggest club in the world that has not won a Champions League final.
And that's a huge point, right? Because we look at a lot of these teams that are deemed artificial, mostly correctly, but specifically Manchester City and PSG. In between the two, neither of them have a Champions League. That's kind of the validation to say, hey, the PSG project is successful. Hey, the Manchester City project is successful. But let me ask you this: one more, just quick response before we get into the round of 8 prediction for the Champions League. Are PSG better or worse with their change in management, switching Tuchel for Pochettino?
I really don't know. They play the same type of football. Nothing's really changed. I say give them another year for us to really see any difference. But like when I watched them, they play the same kind of football. It's very fast-paced when it gets into the final third, and they kind of just do their own thing. So I'm not really convinced that he was the deciding factor in them moving forward, especially seeing how far they got last year. So
I bet that for $1.
Okay.
All right. So switching into round of 8 predictions, we'll have our editor Jimmy put them up so you guys can see them. But we have 4 juicy matches this week. We have Borussia Dortmund from Germany playing Manchester City of England, Bayern Munich of Germany playing against the French PSG, Real Madrid of Spain playing against English Liverpool, and then Chelsea of England playing against Portuguese Porto. Start it off. Let's dig in. Where do you want to start,
I think we can ignore one matchup because Porto-Chelsea, as much as I'm a Chelsea fan, I'm not really impressed. Yes, they beat UV. UV's having a down year for all kinds of reasons. I want to start with Real Madrid-Liverpool. A lot of people are going to look at this game and say, this isn't what it was in the final 2 years ago. Yes, it still is. Look, I know Real Madrid is old and decrepit. I said that myself. They still have a really interesting project. I think they're one of the teams in Europe that has like a lot of young value talent on their team that's going to be great, and that they're already kind of poised for the future, and that they're slowly pushing people out. I still think that they can win though, because Champions League has a lot to do with playing your best on the best stage in the world, and arguably compared to the World Cup. And I really think that experience is going to kick in against a Liverpool team that doesn't really play as fast as they could with their final third. So I think it's going to be very much a tactician type match. I've got Liverpool winning though, because I really think they have a lot more to show than they've had this year. And I think there's going to be a couple of guys that come back into their squad late. What about you?
I agree with you on that match specifically. I think Liverpool is actually going to win it quite comfortably though. Here's the thing.
Okay.
Liverpool are still kind of battling out for a Champions League spot in the Premier League, but Real Madrid are also in a very intense competition, still battling for La Liga, currently third at the filming of this video.
6 points back.
But here's the thing. Do you know who Real Madrid's top scorer is this year domestically?
Is it Benzema?
It is Benzema.
Yeah.
So Benzema has 24 goals. Yeah. And if you look at the second highest scorer on the team, it's Casemiro with 6.
I'm not surprised.
There's an 18-goal drop-off from first to second. That tells me this is a team that is largely reliant on Benzema, who, given, is very good. But for a team like Liverpool that's had defensive issues, this might be a benefit for them. It means they're not going to have to mark as many dynamic attackers and can maybe consolidate what limited defensive power they have on one player. I also think Liverpool maybe has a bid to be a little bit more motivated. I think their combination of versatile attackers are going to run roughshod through Real Madrid. I think it's not going to be as close as it might seem.
I think that is awesome analysis. That is a really good point. Almost like what we say about Newcastle and the fact that they rely too much on Callum Wilson. Same kind of polarizing effect there. Something else I want to call out. Guess who has the most missed shots in the world through all tourneys? It's okay. You don't have to look it up. It's Vinicius for Real Madrid. My guy can get to the goal, and he will literally kick it into the stands. Maybe it's on purpose. Who knows? I don't know what his deal is, but the point is that drop-off between Benzema and Casemiro says a lot. One, it shows how undervalued Benzema has been almost his entire Real Madrid career, because he was always playing with Ronaldo. And when Ronaldo left, he did make a really strong comment saying, I am the man now. I have to put the ball into the net now. And I really thought that was interesting. He's really doing a great job with the fact that they can do that on such a high level. However, Vinicius, please step up. However, also seeing how on this pod, when we say things, the opposite happens. Liverpool should be very careful with Vinicius. Just wanted to say that.
That's fair enough. I mean, I'm getting absolutely lambasted for my comments on Jesse Lingard. Yeah. He's apparently a West Ham.
Hey, and he got called up.
These days. Yeah, unbelievable. I literally can't believe it. And he scored on Arsenal this weekend.
Did.
But anyway, transitioning to even more divisive things. Okay. Bayern versus PSG, right? A rematch played over 2 legs of the final from last year, where Bayern Munich ultimately took away the Champions League. So like I said before, PSG are struggling. They're second in the league after losing Thomas Tuchel, who went to Chelsea. Neymar's been struggling with issues, and Mbappe is the lead scorer on their team, but he only has 18 goals and 6 assists compared to Lewandowski's 32 goals and 6 assists in an arguably more difficult league in the Bundesliga versus League One.
Very fair.
I'm not going to tell you my take because I want to get your take first.
I think we're probably on the same page. Actually, I don't think we're on the same page because you just confuse me sometimes. So look, I'm going to say it like this. I think PSG wins. Here's why. I look at that Bayern back line and I can't stop laughing. I don't know who is going to deal with Mbappe, like reasonably. Like you can make the argument that Alaba is always going to be able to get back, but like, man, I don't see a person on that team who can deal with his size, speed, and just overall finishing capability. I think he's going to torture that back line. However,
okay.
Lewa should have a Ballon d'Or because my man's has been almost Mr. Underappreciated in a time of 2 GOATs, right? You always talk about Ronaldo, Messi. Lewa's never gotten the credit that he really deserves. I think it's going to be a high-scoring match, though.
But you think PSG?
I think it's going to be something absurd, like 7-6 aggregate PSG.
Wow. I think it's gonna be Bayern, and I think it's gonna be an easy game for Bayern, despite some of the hype up to this match.
Easy.
Let me paint you a picture. The leaves are falling. You're in southeastern Germany. You pull up alongside a table, and it's Joshua Kimmich and Leon Goretzka and their Lederhosen. And in that one front pocket, what do you see? You see a young Kylian Mbappe, absolutely pocketed. I think there's going to be a rock-solid midfield performance from Bayern Munich. I think despite their aging defense, I think they have Alaba, who's an absolute stud. I think their midfield is disgusting. Kimmich made a team of the year. Incredible player. I think they're going to take Mbappe and Neymar down and go to the Oktoberfest smorgasbord and absolutely have a romp with this match. I'm saying Bayern 4-2 PSG on aggregate. And I think it's just going to be rough for them. I think Lewandowski's in the prime of his career, ironically, even though he's getting older.
Agree.
Some of the things that have been happening for PSG kind of under the spotlight, like they're struggling in League One. they got kind of lucky against Barcelona because of Barcelona capitulation for the 4th year in a row. I think they're going to come to surface against a bona fide Bavarian powerhouse.
Ooh, Bavarian powerhouse. Tell me something about this Bavarian powerhouse, because I've seen some really weird games that they've played where they've lost to like Bundesliga 3 teams in cups while still playing some of their more vital players. I've seen them lose some really critical league games to where in a league where they should just be running away, it should be over. It should be done. They should be the Rangers of Bundesliga, and it hasn't happened because they've had some weird losses. I'm not going to call them inconsistent because they obviously aren't. I will say that sometimes they just don't show up. And the only thing that scares me is when you don't show up in your own league, you may lose by a goal or two. But you know what doesn't exist in their league? Mbappe, right? And it's like Mbappe versus that midfield is the X factor, because yes, you were right, that midfield is extraordinary, but if they don't turn up, he is just going to run through circles around them. So I'm not mad at your prediction, but I'm still taking PSG. However, I don't expect Neymar to be there. I think Neymar's sister still wants a longer birthday. So.
Oh, shit. What I will say, you bring up a good point, and I'm gonna hit you with stats because you've been respectful to me. I'll be respectful to you. I see what you're saying, but Bayern Munich still are first in the Bundesliga.
Yes,
granted, they
absolutely.
only have a 4-point margin, but they played against Borussia Dortmund in Der Klassiker and won despite going down early to 2 Haaland goals. And I think while Mbappe is better than Haaland is probably the closest to a pure striker besides Lewandowski that Bayern Munich could face against. So I think that's a good measure. If they can go down 2-0 to the likes of Haaland, they can probably deal with Mbappe relatively well. But it'll be a good match. This is my pick of the week for sure.
Wow. Okay. I think it'll be
we got one fixture
definitely
left.
Match of the week easily. Go ahead.
We got one fixture left, and it involves the other German powerhouse, this time going over to the northwestern portion of the country. Borussia Dortmund, the men in yellow, versus Manchester City, the light blue English.
Did you just call them a powerhouse?
Of the rainy Isle. You don't think BVB's a powerhouse?
In terms of what? Not this year. Maybe in terms of like consistency. They have been struggling this year.
I get excited. I like German football just in general. I do like BVB. It's hard to quantify, but I'll lay you with a relatively hot take. I think this is the most talent you've seen BVB have since their 2013 Champions League run to the final. Since they had Loa, Royce, Götze, Gundogan, and Pistek, since they made that final, they've since gotten Sancho, Reina, Haaland, and old Royce, and Julian Brandt, some exciting players in the team. I
would say exciting young players that they just plan on selling. It's a seller's market. They're just they literally just turn over like all the keys to the young kingdom. That is what they do. They are not. They are. Are they a European powerhouse?
To your point, they are a sellers club, but consider the team that they made that Champions League final with. That was a young team that they went on to sell, so maybe they could do it again. I think it's going to be really tight. Okay. Man City, I think, has some tactical advantages with the way that they play, but I'm gonna say BVB eke it out 3-2 on aggregate. Because Pep does struggle in the Champions League. I think there's just something intangible about how good Haaland is. So this is my upset of the week. Do you know who has the most goals in the Champions League, by the way?
Say it. The one that's better than Mbappe?
My man Erling Haaland.
The one that's better than Mbappe?
Goals. He has 10 goals. I don't think that. But I think, granted the form this year, Haaland's a prime threat, and the second highest player in the league, only a 6, 4 off of Haaland. This is my pick for the upset. What do you think?
I don't think that's much of an upset. Here's why. This is not a hot take. This is just facts. How many Champions Leagues has Pep won at Man City? Thank you. What happens every time they get to that weird semifinal, whether they get to quarterfinal or if it's like, the round of 16. What always happens? It's like a weird.
It's hard to watch.
It's hard to watch. It's almost like they just collapse on themselves, right? And you know what? It usually kicks it off. It's a weird stat that you're gonna hate. It's always around the time of the second game that Man City and Man United play later in the year. He can never get that result at home. And
this is some Sorcerer's Stone,
bro. It is because it's weird, bro. It goes into my whole theory that Pep is overrated. That every year they just kind of collapse at the end on the things that people go, okay, cool, you won the Premier League. Can you win a European title? If he does that, cool. I might not be quiet, but it's always around this time of the year that you saw what happened this year. They got their ass kicked by Man United, and then they honestly they always come out in the Champions League around this time and they just fall. And I don't think it's going to be an upset if Dortmund beats them. I think it's just going to be a precursor to them trying to spend $300 million on Erling Haaland.
And 7 additional left backs.
Exactly. Can never have too many like fullbacks if you're Man City. I got Dortmund winning this 4-2.
Okay, so fair enough. Recapping, those are the 4 fixtures we have coming up in the next couple weeks. We'll have a show after to see how they did. But what do you have? Final thoughts on this Champions League group stage before we pitch over to Europa?
Definitely matchup of the year, honestly. I know we said that about Milan, Man U, and that was really good, and we'll talk about that in a sec. But Bayern, PSG, man, I am going to watch every second of those games. It's going to be amazing. Hopefully Neymar's back.
Love to hear it.
Ordinary Footballers, thanks for joining us back for the second segment. Just want to hit right into that Europa League. So, Flash, before we even get into it, I have a question. How many gallons of sweat did you have after watching the Arsenal Olympic legs? Like cumulative. Give me like how many gallons?
It wasn't as much as I thought, but keep in mind my standards have been set very low since that Benfica match, to be honest.
Okay.
We did concede, but we had 3 away goals. I'll tell you what I was. I'll tell you what I was getting excited about, though. Let me set you in the Looney Tunes scene setting for what happened in the Eastern nation along the Adriatic coast of Croatia.
Okay. I like this.
Listen, let me tell you about this team. If I told you had a small club, small Eastern European nation, if I told you that their head coach was arrested hours before they gave on corruption charges, if I told you they played against one of the supposed top 6 teams in the best league in the world, and that team decided to play their best 11 at the time, if I told you that they were down 2-0 on aggregate 2 away goals, and if I told you that they were led by a backup manager in a stadium with no fans, that's renowned for its fierceness, how would you say they did? Of course, I'm talking about Dinamo Zagreb, the defending Croatian champions, beating Spurs 3-0 to beat them 3-2 on aggregate. London is red, but so is Croatia.
Oh my gosh!
As the story goes,
London is not red. Look,
glorious.
Yeah, bro. they just collapsed inside of themselves. They look like they didn't know what to do.
Here's the thing. And this was the thing. And like I never tune in to just watch Spurs play to like hate on them because they just disgust me. Like they're the bile that you see at the bottom of the tube station. Like that's the way I look at Spurs. But we have a very good friend. His name is Aaron. He's a huge Spurs fan. He and I go head to head on who's the best team in London. But I watched this game happen in real time, right? Dynamo Zagreb outshot Spurs. They basically beat them in every single category, swept them 3-0. Spurs literally only needed 1 goal to win on the away goal differences. I didn't even mean this, man. I went into our group chat. I said, bro, I'm sorry. That hurts.
Yeah.
I thought this man was going to be on suicide watch, to be honest.
I kept calling him. He wouldn't answer. Man.
It just hurts. It's just pain. It's like even though I hate this club, Spurs, so much, like I felt the pain for them. Like even though I live 3,000 miles away from England, like I just felt the tears absolutely rolling.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. with a result this bad, is it time for Jose to go?
No. It wouldn't do anything. Here's the thing. Josie still needs a summer. You know what I'm going to say. He still needs a summer. Bring in competent defenders. Yes, the defenders should have. I honestly put that loss more on the players than Josie just because they did what Josie liked, right? They held out, and then they got to overtime somehow. Excuse me, extra time. And those players they just looked like they didn't belong on the field. It's crazy what happens to a player's mind. But they just looked like they didn't belong, right? You saw the same thing I saw. Dynamo went out there and they were like, all right, cool, we need this. We're going to go score this many. Slav. This is how you know it's bad. These Eastern European teams are so good right now that apparently they're making me get them confused. I'm bring back that what I was saying. Zagreb went out and they literally took extra time from Tottenham, and Tottenham looked lost. It was weird because I've never seen them look like that. It was so bad. They looked lost. Yeah. They didn't look professional.
And I watched that Jose interview after, and Jose Mourinho is a dog, one of the most confident people. This looked like the shell of a broken man. Like he looked like he just wanted to cry. Like, and I don't know. I put some of it on him. I put some of it on the team, but I do think it's time for Jose to go. Listen, the 58-year-old Portuguese manager has a lot under his belt. Champions League titles with the likes of Inter and Porto, leading Chelsea to success. One of the most controversial and dynamic managers in the game, but I think largely he's kind of fallen off the bandwagon. Let me tell you why. Okay. Out of the 8 clubs he's managed, including the 2 spells at Chelsea, his time at Tottenham has resulted in the lowest points per match, averaging only 1.67 over a total of 54 games played. Currently, he's 8th place in the Premier League. If this continues, it'll mark 2 out of 2 years of not getting top 4. His predecessor, Pochettino, could practically guarantee Tottenham top 4 every single year. Now, repetitively, the special one has come in, hasn't been able to get them any Champions League football. And on top of this is a Tottenham team that Josie inherited that made the final the year prior. I know it was a little bit dodgy. They had to go through the likes of Ajax.
You didn't even think they belong there, but okay.
They still made it to the Champions League final. Now they're in a state where they can't
Worst
qualify.
Champions League final you ever watched.
I agree with that. Consider that Tottenham team at the time was so good that they were actually considering not playing Harry Kane when he came back for injury. Imagine that Tottenham team now if they didn't play Harry Kane. They're one-dimensional. They play boring football. They can't guarantee the Champions League. Jose's had 54 games, his worst out of any club. I think it's time for him to go. I think results like this are so bad on top of everything that there's really no excuse.
Wow. Again, I don't agree. Counterpoint, you said they're one-dimensional. However, when you look at them, it's not Josie's fault. Like, they're one-dimensional because if Harry Kane gets hurt, who's the striker? Don't say Tony Parrott. Who's the striker for Tottenham if he gets hurt? Name one.
They'll just play another defender. It's Mourinho ball.
As much as I agree with that, even in Mourinho ball, he always has had a striker. He has nobody. The striker that they had when they got to that final that was in place of Kane was Marcos Llorente. So it's not like it was anyone. Yeah, but like look who stepped up and like played like Son and Lucas Moura were playing like they were world class players. And Moura's and he's not world class. He's very talented, but he's not a world class player. And he was playing like it though. So I can't give you that. Here's the thing. Any other club, maybe if it was like Man City or something like that, sure. But Josie's at Tottenham, a team that, first of all, kept Poch there from 2014 to 2019. Okay, so they're clearly patient because, like we always get on Aaron about, they've won one cup, the Audi Cup, right? A preseason tournament. Since then, they've won nothing. They are nothing, all right? And when you think about that time frame as well, look at how much money they spent on the players that they brought in. They didn't bring in any big names except for Son. And honestly, I guess they brought in Lucas Moura, but again, there was no big names that popped out at you, right? And they've been a team that's kind of, it almost seems like they're trying to put themselves ahead of the other top six teams. Like they built this crazy huge stadium. I know you saw it before you left. It's wild.
Knock off Emirates, yeah.
That stadium is worth every penny. It's gorgeous, right? It almost seems like they're trying to do everything backwards, but they haven't brought in the players to match Josie's style. They have young, incompetent, like a defensive line, right? And then they have these older dudes on their defensive line who shouldn't be there either. Alderweiler, right? Like he looks like he's ready to retire. Serge Aurier is probably the worst. He's the Ivory Coast player that didn't get a France invite. You know what I'm saying? And then you look at the rest of that line, and it's just nothing but young boys. So I say give him another summer. See if he does switch out players like Ndombele, right? Like he is not for a Josie midfield. A Josie midfield plays holding ball. They don't really do anything flashy. They don't attack too great. They make the right passes, and they don't do anything else. And they're usually a little bit bigger and tougher, right? And Double's got to go if you want to keep Josie, because they don't mesh, right? The striker Harry Kane's good for that team. Honestly, I think I agree with Aaron when he says he deserves better. It'd be nice if Real Madrid said, "Hey, come replace Benzema, even though you're kind of old as well." Son, great for Tottenham again, but he has a good work rate in the first half, but it seems like every game I watch that has Tottenham involved, he does not work as hard in the second half. And we both know Josie likes to play two fullbacks. Just one is just happens to be called a winger, right? He likes to have his guys play back, help with the defense, help reject crosses. And I don't think right now I don't think he has the team for it. So to move on, I'm not impressed by this loss.
Not even a counterpoint.
Okay.
Here's my counterpoint. They don't have the center backs they need, but they brought in Højbjerg, which is a perfect Jose Mourinho player who echoes Nemanja Matic, who Jose was a huge proponent of. They have Bergwijn, who hasn't done anything, but that was still a solid transition. They have arguably the best duo in the Premier League, and they brought in an experienced Doherty to kind of push that defending backwards.
Not impressed,
Here's the thing. With Jose Mourinho, he's 58 years old. He's coached 8 clubs. If you can't come into a side that made the Champions League final the year before you came in and even guaranteed them Premier League or Champions League football, then you got to go because there's no growth. That's the thing. You can build ultimately this shambolic defensive football club, but there's not a lot of growth and there's not a lot of promise.
Did you think they belonged there?
I would maybe get.
Do you really think they belonged there last year? Like, be honest. Did they belong in that final?
In the champion. In the final 2 years ago,
did you see them being in that final?
Because Ajax overperformed. I did not see them being in a final, but as much as it hurts me to say, Tottenham is probably one of the teams that should be making it to Champions League every year.
Okay.
Given the state,
they should.
Given the state of teams like Arsenal, given kind of the influx of how Chelsea's been with Lampard and they've been up and down, given how Manchester United, 2-3 years ago was only on the come up. Not a lot of excuses, especially when you have the special ones manager.
Oof.
So transitioning from that profoundly horrible diatribe, if you're a Tottenham fan, we're going to move on. We're going to make some predictions. So we'll put them up again so you can see the fixtures. But looking at our round of 8 matchups, we have a bracket to the left and we have a bracket to the right. This is important because the winner of the left bracket will play the right bracket. We know thus much. As the Champions League final has already kind of been mapped out as far as the bracket goes. On the left side, we have Arsenal playing against the Czech Slavia Praha. The winner of that match will play against the Croatian Dinamo Zagreb and Spanish Villarreal. So the winner of that will be one of the semifinals. And then on the right side, we have Manchester United versus Spanish Granada and the Italian Roma versus the Dutch Ajax. And then the winners of each of those matches will make the second semifinal. And then obviously the winners of these semifinals will play in the final. Okay. So start it off. Pick your poison. Where do you want to start on this list of matchups?
Let's start with Arsenal, Slavia Praha. Y'all are weird, man. I am going to take Arsenal. because I'm hoping that the spirit of ordinary footballers will make the opposite happen and Slavia Praha will destroy you. But no, I really think Arsenal is just still a little too talented for a team like Slavia Praha. They may be riding high, but I'm just not impressed. I don't see them getting the win against them. So I got something like over the course of 2 legs, 3-1. Maybe a 2-1 win. Hold on for a 1-0 win. Move on. Who cares?
I got a 4-2 Arsenal versus Slavia Praha. Okay. Here's the thing. They've been okay, but given who we could have drawn, this is a matchup that you probably would take if your life was at stake for it. And here's the thing. Slavia Praha have impressed thus far, but since they've impressed, you can prepare against them. We've seen them beat Leicester. We've seen them beat. I'm trying to remember who they beat last time. They beat Rangers last round, right? A team that was flying high. So we've seen them do these kind of things. So hopefully Arteta can kind of manage that because we have a lot of data to go off of. But here's the thing. Arsenal, if they win that match, they don't have to play any of these big clubs. They get to play the winner of Dynamo Zagreb and the winner of Villarreal. Villarreal, which I should mention, is managed by
Good
Mr.
evening.
Good Evening, Count Chocula himself, Unai Emery, the man ousted from his club because of his horrendous results.
I don't like this.
With that being said, how do you see that falling out? Dynamo Kiev versus
I am so
Villarreal.
upset because I was gonna hit you with that next. I got Villarreal. I think they're just too good for a team like. I think Dynamo Kiev is a Russian team, right?
No. Sorry, I keep saying Dynamo Kiev. It's Dynamo Zagreb. The ones that beat
my bad.
apologize.
And you know, I did the same thing just now.
We'll say it's just a different Dynamo every single time.
True, but Dynamo Zagreb is Croatian. I still got Villarreal. He went to a team that probably understands his language a lot more, and I think they're just a little bit better set up than Arsenal is. And I think you guys face off against them, and I think he is going to do whatever he can to thrash you. I can't wait.
And here's the thing: I am very glad that we got Arteta, despite having criticized this for him. I was not a fan of Emery. I went to the games against Emery that Emery managed. It was largely a soulless atmosphere. But here's the thing: let's not forget that Emery is a Europa League savant. Prior to his run at Arsenal, he was at PSG. But prior to that, he was at Sevilla.
Yep.
And at that Sevilla team, he won an unprecedented 3 Europa League titles in a row with this club. This is his competition, and despite losing to Chelsea with Arsenal, he still made it to the Europa League final not a few years back. So he's going to have a chip on his shoulder to prove. So I hope Villarreal go through because I want to see that Arsenal versus Emery rematch, despite it being a closer game.
All right, more to come from that. Okay, so you already know we have to move on to a game that's kind of really interesting to me. Ajax Roma. So I look at Ajax and obviously what a way they've come from, almost tasting Champions League final glory to kind of getting bumped down to Europa this year and going through a lot, like we talked about last episode. Promes trying to kill somebody with a knife, and
that's not even a joke, by the way. As well,
not a joke. Don't look at it. It's not a joke. My man's literally lost Anyway, their goalkeeper, who is phenomenal, Onana, is an Onana, right? He got hit for doping, whatever you want to call it.
12 months.
Yeah, that's pretty unfortunate, man. Goalkeeper doping. That just never. Anyway, Ajax, again, a team that's come a long way. Always so competitive, and usually has some of the top young talent in the world. Versus a Roma team that's kind of been pissed on over the last couple of years, right? So Roma has a wonderful following, and they've I guess you can say they're in the Italian top 6, but they're definitely trending towards bottom over the last 7-8 years. They haven't really won a lot, but they have a rich tradition. Probably helps that they're in Rome. I really want to see this matchup. I think there's a lot of talent on both sides, and I would really love to see Ajax kind of get back to something that could be meaningful. I really want to see them in the final, so that's a game I'll be watching. However, I do have Ajax winning. What about you?
I have Ajax winning. I was very relieved when I saw both of these teams being drawn because while I think Arsenal has it in their locker to beat each of these teams, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. You're right. Roma have been getting pissed
yes.
on. To put it bluntly, in the last 3 years in Serie A, they went 6th, 5th, and 6th. Yeah. They're currently in 6th, so they could improve. But these are 3 years after they had their stunning comeback against Barcelona. So they went from highs to lows. And with Ajax, not only was Onana banned because of doping, Promes was jailed, released, and still suspect in the stabbing case, like you mentioned. Their club record signing, Sebastian Haller, coming from West Ham, was forgotten to be added to the Europa League roster, so he's ineligible to play despite a club record signing. Ziyech left the club, but here's the player to watch in this matchup. Look at the Serbian Dusan Tadic.
Okay.
In the Eredivisie, he has 12 goals and 12 assists. Out of both of these teams, he's going to be the most prolific playmaker, and I think he has a lot in store as Ajax carve out their redemption match to try to get back to some semblance of European glory.
I like that. Tadic is a very underrated player, does not get as much love as he should, obviously, because he probably doesn't play in the top league in the world, but doesn't matter. Ajax is always a good watch. Next matchup being Granada-Man U. I am not excited for this, but I do want to hit on something that we didn't speak on. Was because we hyped it up so much. The last pod was Man U Milan. Give me your reaction from those two legs. Were you pleased?
I wanted Manchester United to go out because I thought they were the best team. But I was impressed because I watched that second final and I thought Milan played Manchester played very composed, having a 1-0 win to kind of solidify it, going away to Milan. Yeah. So I thought it was a good performance. Man U are going to be tough. They have to be the favorites to win this thing, right? So kind of scared, but also respectful. Ole sees is out to kind of get something back.
You leave Ole alone. He is at the wheel. People hate on him for no reason, but it's Man U, so what do you expect? I want you to talk about what really stood out to you, because I know it stood out to me, and I don't understand this man. I don't know what wakes him up, and that man is Pogba. I don't know what gets him out of bed and gets him going, but in that second leg against Milan, my man looked like when he came on, obviously, off the bench, he looked like he was a man that had to play to save his entire family's life. I haven't been that impressed with him since he first arrived at Man U.
Yeah, it turns out the Enigma machine actually wasn't a contraption to help the English win the World War. It turns out it was just Paul Pogba living in Manchester United. Yeah. Whenever he gets up, that thing just fires up and goes in any given direction, based off the day of the week.
I don't get it, because he looked inspired. He looked hungry. He was making plays that Fred makes. You know how I feel about Fred. I call Fred Effort Man. Effort Man. It looked like Pogba had
like an off-brand superhero, like you'd buy a Dollar General.
Yeah, it's like, what is this power? I give 100% effort all the time. And it looked like Pogba said, let me have a piece of that pie. And he just was doing everything out there, man. He looked like he was really playing for something. I'm not going to say the badge, even though they said that they've entered new contract talks. I'm not going to say he was playing to his suitors out there, like, hey, Real Madrid, come get me, bro. He looked really impressive. And obviously he scored the goal to solidify the victory. Whoop-de-doo. But that effort.
And here's the thing. Do I hope Man U loses against Granada? Yes. Do I hope they lose against Roma or Ajax? Yes. But there is something that would be so compelling about a Manchester United versus an Arsenal Europa League final.
Ooh.
Could you imagine that? Like, not only would that be the YouTube event of the century, but my God.
Bro.
My God. I mean, Arsenal put the absolute beating on Manchester United when playing them in 1v1, not results.
Yeah.
So this would be a chance for them to get back at us, but at the same time, there's such a rivalry there. I just feel like every single time I watch it, my brother's a diehard Man U fan. I'm obviously supporting Arsenal,
Yeah.
so this would be more exciting for me than whatever the Champions League has to be.
We might have to do
if
a
it's Man U
live
versus
watch
Arsenal.
party if that happens. Oh my gosh.
It would have to be.
It
would have to be. But some exciting stuff in the Europa League, and kind of just to highlight as well. Remember we were talking about how the Europa League does some surprising things.
Yeah.
We saw it this week. I mean, there was some exciting stuff that happened. Some really good games happening. So don't scoff it. Certainly not as good as the Champions League.
True.
Although I'd like to think it is. But keep an eye out and let us know what you think is going to happen.
Definitely think the heart is in it for those teams. They definitely have something to play for. And as we talked about, the money disparity between the placing about where you finish is definitely a big deal, especially in a year like COVID. And like I said, it's still a big ass trophy, and it's to basically say you're still one of the top European clubs. So like you said, lots to watch there, and we will definitely be getting back at these results when these legs are through.